One of the things that's really changed since I graduated, and even in recent memory, is community service. I don't think that community service came in until either the late 90s or early 2000s as a requirement. If you would comment on that and how you think that helps in the development, because the cadets are dealing with a 19 to 20 hour day, they've got sports,
right.
And now there's a community service requirement, I believe, of 8 hours per semester.
There are.
So if you would explain that and how
Sure. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart. My educational background is in developmental psychology. And so we're talking about developmental models here, and we're talking about the human development model. Well, one of the things that I believe very strongly in is that community service allows people to develop perspective. And perspective as a leader is important. Leadership is really about relationships and perspective. And the broader your perspective, the greater and the stronger those relationships can be across a more diverse group of people. So one of the things that I talk about is the fact that we think we're pretty diverse here, and we are, and we're becoming more diverse here at the Coast Guard Academy. But we're not nearly as diverse as we think we are, because first of all, cadets self-select to come here. Mm-hmm. Then we put them in a uniform that looks the same. Then we give them haircuts that look the same. Then we give them a curriculum that looks very much the same. And then we lock them behind these gates for 4 years with limited exposure to alternative points of view. Okay. Then when they graduate, they go out to an operational unit, and they deploy for extended periods of time. They work hard, they train hard, they come back in, and they may live on the ship, or they may live in government quarters, or what have you, with limited exposure to alternative points of view. So my question is, where does this sense of perspective come from? Well, I'd like to have it start here, where we can actually have some influence, get people outside of the gate, get them exposed to points of view that are different than the ones that they brought with them here. And that allows them to actually understand a broader group of individuals. So the whole idea is to understand and reconcile these alternative points of view, to bring that to bear on the leadership that they have, not only here at the Coast Guard Academy, but as they go into the fleet. Now, in the absence of that, and you've heard me talk about this before, in the absence of that, they really only have the perspective of themselves. And I use myself as an example of the old white Irish Catholic guy from the Northeast, which is, it's a wonderful demographic, but it's a very small population of the United States Coast Guard. So if I haven't allowed myself to gain those additional perspectives, those broader perspectives, then I'm really only limiting myself to being an effective leader with those individuals that I know. And that's one of the things that I kind of get them outside the gate to get exposure to. And do that early on. And really what happens is they begin to understand there's a lot of cadets that come here already have a lot of community service background from high school, and they understand what that brings, and they understand what the personal validation, the feeling, the contribution that community service brings to them in terms of their ability to serve and make a contribution to others. And there are others here at the Coast Guard Academy who have never done that, so they actually need to kind of get a little push out of the nest in order to have that exposure. The idea of 8 community service hours per semester, when I first got here, we were actually using community service and institutional service hours interchangeably. Mm-hmm. And I saw that as a problem. Because I want to make sure that people are actually getting outside the gate. So stuffing envelopes in admissions is not the same as working with young people in a partnership and education program at a local New London school, for example. That's why I changed the requirement to be 8 community service hours. And you can do more community service hours, and actually they can count for institutional service hours, but you can't do institutional service hours and have them count for community service hours, because the whole idea is to get outside the gate and get that exposure. Now that said, in the past 2 years, this program has just unbelievably exploded. The cadets really do get it, they really enjoy it, and they are using their imagination with regard to the kinds of contributions that they are making. It's not just partnership and education, it's not just big brothers and big sisters, it's not just going out with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, going to a local school with regard to sports. We just had a group of cadets who did a renovation to a basketball courts at a local housing project.
That was with Andrew Ely.
Absolutely.
Ethical teacher of ethics.
It was absolutely wonderful, and what a wonderful thing that they did with that. And I know that you have a project coming up very soon with Habitat for Humanity as well.
We do. I thought that all of the good community service hours that were taking place was wonderful, but I felt that cadets needed to be recognized, and in essence, as we strive for national prominence, they're doing a lot of things. And Tara King and I went off one night to St. James Church and watched 4 cadets with their Coast Guard sweat gear on, and that was known as Coast Guard Night at this church, of which 70 people got their meals, and that was wonderful, good publicity. But I really thought that we need to do something, build something, leave a monument that that the cadets can really tie into, and hopefully it'll lead to earlier philanthropy. So right now, the class of 2013 and 2014, they're ready to go. Our alumni are going to contribute $60,000, about $1,000 from each of the classes from the class of 1950 on, and the cadets are putting in $30,000 of their dues money. It costs about $90,000 to build a house. And I think that's something that cadets will always be able to come back to, even their reunion year, and say, we did this.
Wonderful.
And I hope that we're able to do further projects like this for home for veterans or things like that. But they wanted to. I let them select
that's wonderful.
What do I want to say? The organization.
Right.
As you said, many of them have worked for Habitat for Humanity even before they got here.
Right.
So that was a more natural tie. And I just went past the lot this morning on my way into work. And it's going to give them great recognition. It's crossing the CVS at the intersection of Bank and Jefferson Street there. And not that they need the on-site recognition, but I'm hoping that we sign the contract on or about August 16th, just before convocation. And hopefully we have a wall raising on the morning of the Merchant Marine game.
That'd be wonderful.
And hopefully the Commandant will be here and take part with the superintendent in raising one of those walls. So I think that'll give them the recognition they need and kind of a soft reward going forward. Because it really is wonderful work that they're doing, whether they're working in a soup kitchen, building a basketball court, and I do think it gets them out of their comfort zone.
It does, and I think that's so important to the development of the leadership skills and understanding people that are different than them as we become more diverse. So thank you for the alumni's contribution to that development as well.
Well, thanks. Our alumni are happy to support that, and I just think it's a great project going forward.